very busy schedules now that you guys are able to get back into your hospitals and sell a little bit more. I appreciate you taking the time to jump onto this training and get a little bit more knowledge about the HoverSling repositioning sheets and some competition. And hopefully you'll find at least a few nuggets of this training that will help you in your daily sales of the repo sheet. And just to give everybody a heads up, I do want to let you know that this is going to be recorded. Just for those that haven't been able to make some of the trainings that we have, you guys are going to be our recorded session for the day. And afterwards, we can send this video out if you have any interest in seeing the video when it's completed. I will share the presentation with each of you. And as another side note, when we do get to the demo side, which is like the second half of this training, if all of those that have their cameras on, if they could just turn their cameras off, because that way it will put me as the full screen and you'll be able to see the demo a little bit better. So without any further ado, let's get started with our training. Okay, do the presentation? All right, great. So this is on the HoverSling repositioning sheets. All right, so one product, multiple tasks. Our clinical applications are IFU for these products. You can use it for lateral transfers, and that would be for the air portion of it, just like you would use for the hover mat. You have your vertical transfers, which you can do a supine and a seated transfer for those vertical transfers. You can use it for repositioning, for proning, and then you have kind of the adjunct side of the different tasks where you could do, some early mobility and physical therapy techniques. You can have some floor recovery for those facilities that may have a ceiling lift that goes around the whole room. If they're on their way to the bathroom and they fall, you could use the repo sheet to get them off the floor and back into bed. You have your linen changes. You have your linen changes. You have your hygiene care where you can do wound check and any kind of cleaning that you would need to do with the patients. So some patient benefits and your clinical side of it, you have less disturbance because you can leave that product underneath the patient without having to constantly remove or replace. No log rolling the patient to constantly put it back underneath and remove it each time you need to do any kind of patient handling task. And we do have third-party testing results available for that. And a lot of that information can be found in your pressure injury prevention document that we have. So we do have that information. We have better skin care. There's less skin shearing, pinching, abrasions, specifically looking at when you're using it for a seated transfer for any of your repositioning versus, a standard repo sheet that they would just be pulling and tugging on those patients. It is cooler because you have the moisture wicking properties of the product, and it does stay cooler from the less layers, so there's no heat buildup. Using all these multiple products that they would need to have underneath the patient to do all of these various tasks can lead to a lot of layers and a lot of heat buildup from all of those layers. And wound care doesn't really like to have all those layers. So this helps to alleviate all those multiple products underneath the patient. It is more comfortable because you have that head and foot support when moving. So, there's no uncomfortable squeezing of a patient when used as a sling and compared to a lot of other slings that are out there. And we'll show you that a little bit better when we get to the demonstration part of the presentation. And it does provide the patient with more dignity. There's less caregivers and having to draw attention for calling additional staff to transfer and move the patients, because a lot of these tasks can be done with either one or two caregivers. And so you're not really, bringing in all those additional caregivers into, the mix. And it provides the patient with a happier task. You're providing a smoother, more comfortable and safe patient transfers, and it makes them happier with their satisfaction scores, and that leads to higher reimbursements for the hospitals. And then for those patients that may have, are a little bit nervous or they have some concerns with noise, we do have our adjustable setting where you can, slowly inflate for a quieter and peaceful experience. So you're not disturbing them as much as, some of our competition. Our staff benefits. Obviously, you need less staff to do these transfers. You can do it with 2 staff for, for the air, for the supine transfer, for the seated transfers. And so you don't have to worry about calling all those additional staff to come and help you. For repositioning, with the proper training, you can do it with 1 to 2 staff for the repositioning tasks. There's less time. You don't have to wait for all those additional staff. You can simplify the product selection because all of these tasks can be done with one product. You're not concerned about choosing which product to use at which time. There are less injuries, like you're decreasing your injury risk of repetitive tasks because your patient weighing 400 pounds is really moving like 40 when you're using the air. When you're using the lift, it's basically no manual effort whatsoever because that lift is doing all of the work for you. It is fewer products used. This is a 2-in-1 device, so it replaces those multiple products, and you can use the air or you can use the sling feature. So it takes the guesswork out of what to use and what kind of device is needed for what. You have a full-length device, so there's no need for additional head or foot support, which is not necessarily the case with some of our competitors. And then you have your ease of use. So it works with any type loop style hanger bar and our HoverTech air supply. So if you use our Air 1200 or HT Air 1200, you can use that adjustable setting for, any kind of patients that may be a little uneasy about the noise. Or you could use the classics as well for doing all of your transfers. And you can use it with very minimal training. So some of our operational improvements for the device, it's very accommodating that it accommodates a wide range of patient weights. Up to 1,000 pounds or the weight capacity of your lift, it's going to be the lower of those 2 numbers. So if you have a lift that only can lift up to 600 pounds, the weight capacity of the sling is 600 pounds. The 39 and the 50-inch width accommodates, various widths and sizes of patients. So you don't have to worry about which device to choose for, different size patients. The 39-inch is going to be the majority of what you're going to need for most of your patients. It does have an ease of use. It's easy to train on clinical techniques and the operation of the equipment. Those that have lifts in their facilities, they know how to use slings. And a lot of them know how to use the air assisted devices. So if you have something that they could do either or at, it's very easy to train. And then you have the use of the ceiling lifts or even floor lifts in certain circumstances. We know not every facility has the availability of ceiling lifts throughout the whole hospital. So you can use the floor lifts with this device for most of the tasks. And then you have a standardization. So it is a hospital-wide solution. It can be used throughout the facility, and you standardize one product. So there is a cost savings and training efficiencies that comes with this product. And, for those areas that don't have the ceiling lifts or even a mobile lift available, you can use the air transfer, to go to radiology or any of the other floors that may not have the lifts available. There's no interference. So it does not interfere with other surface therapies such as low loss air mattresses and alternating pressure and standard foam mattresses. So, you don't have to worry about the device interfering with the efficacy of the low air loss mattresses. We have additional support. So we have all of you guys and us back here in customer service and the RSDs that can assist with professional training and consulting services to help make sure that your clinicians are properly using these devices. And it helps to reduce any of the waste because you're combining 2 in 1. So you don't have multiple products that you're wasting on one patient. It's one device for one patient use. And then it also helps to reduce costs by streamlining the process. So you don't have all of this inventory taking up shelf space and multiple SKUs for one product. You have a happier staff. Because you're reducing your staff requirements and what, they have to use different products for different tasks and how they have to use those, now you have one product that they can do these multiple tasks with. And therefore, it enhances compliance amongst your staff. So a little bit about one of our major competitors, and this is the device that's out there on the market that is most like our product. And it is the Sage AirTap LC, which stands for Lift Compatible Patient Repositioning System. And as you can see of these two pictures, they really tote with their vertical transfers about using it for seated transfer. And then you also have, a picture of the device, and this is going to kind of show you a little bit about what the device looks like. It can come with a kitted option where you would have your wedges, you would have your microclimate pad and the device itself, or you can get it with just the microclimate pad and the device. In their IFU, they do not state that you can use the device without a microclimate pad. So it comes automatically kitted with each device that they have it folded up inside. You have 3 sets of straps on each side, so 6 straps altogether. You have the straps here at the head end where there's variable options depending on what type of transfer you want to use the sling for. You have a variable option down here at the hip end of the device, because again, as you can see for this picture, it is a 3/4 length device. So you will, if you use it as an air transfer mattress, you're going to need to have an additional caregiver. If you're boosting your patient, you're going to need another caregiver to worry about that heel drag. A lot of times they sell heel boots for wound care. And so they will combine the heel boots along with, selling this device. So then that way it's their total solution. So it's just that extra product, or you need another caregiver. This center strap right here, as you can see, is much longer than the other straps. And this strap only has one option, one loop. So it makes it very difficult when they say that you can do a supine lift with this device to have a product that doesn't need hip flexion. With our device, it is a true supine, like the patient does not need to have that hip flexion with it. This device, there's really no option, because we'll show you a little bit later on in the demo that where this is placed, it makes it very difficult to have the true supine lift. These are your handles for pulling the mat over on top of your wedges. Part of Sage's technique is that you pull the patient up on top of the wedges instead of turning the patient and then laying them back down onto the wedges for the repositioning. All right, so let's get into a little bit about the comparison of the two devices. So for our HoverSling repo sheet, ours is 1,000 pound weight capacity, where theirs is a 600 pounds. And again, that's partially with that 3/4 length. So they have that reduced weight capacity. We both have basically the same type of tasks that you can do that we have listed in our IFUs. The only difference with ours is we actually have ours indicated for proning as well as all of these other tasks. The AirTap LC does not. It does not include the proning on their IFU. We do have the option of the hover cover in the full or half length sizes, and you can purchase the wedges also to have kind of a kitted option available. But you do not have to use, if you don't have a patient that needs to have an additional chuck, so you don't have to use that with our repo sheet. You can just put the patient on the repo sheet, where theirs is sold with a microclimate pad and with or without the wedges. So they always will be using their microclimate body pad with their device. Ours is breathable with and compatible with low air loss surfaces. And so it does not need that hover cover, but they do need to have that microclimate pad. They do not speak to breathability of their product, only that it supports an ideal microclimate. So if you look through any of their documentation or any of their information that is out there, there is no information out there that we have found that states anything on breathability of the product. We have two sizes available. We have a 39 and a 50 inch, and they're both by 78 inches long. So that gives us a full length product. And that is to help reduce the need for the additional caregivers with the lateral transfer or heel drag with the boosting. They only have one size. They have a 37 inch by 65. So it is that 3/4 length product and not quite as wide as our 39 inch. So we do have a little bit of a smaller size for theirs. And that 3/4 length does need, again, that additional caregiver for the feet if they're doing the lateral transfer, or the boots for the heel drag, or someone else to take care of their heels for the boosting. We have variable straps to attach for our supine and seated transfer, and we do have 8 straps. So we have 4 on each side that allow us to do different types of techniques in different positions and accommodate for those different size patients. And the straps are all equal length for that true supine lift where there's no hip flexion needed. However, on theirs, they only have 6 straps. So they only accommodate for the seated or supine, but it's not really a true supine because that center strap is longer than the head and the foot straps for the sling attachment. It does cause a little bit of hip flexion for the supine lift. We have pockets. We have pockets to put our sling straps in and store them to keep them out of the way so they don't get hooked on any kind of, you know, things that are around the bed. You know, we all know, especially in the ICU, that there's a lot of cords and wires and attachments and things. And, you know, the last thing you need is straps getting hooked up onto them and getting caught. So with their device, there's no product or no pockets to store those straps. So it could be a tripping hazard and they could get caught on anything that's around the bed. In our seated transfer, the legs are separated to secure the patient and provide comfort, and it does give you a whole lot of extra room for, you know, larger patients' legs in that seated transfer. Where in their seated transfer, you'll see that their legs are squeezed very tightly together, leaving the potential, you know, for that patient to be very uncomfortable, and they don't have to worry about any kind of additional movement. So some of your tools that are available, we have our videos, brochures, our website. The savings calculator can be a huge tool for you to use because that can actually show, you know, how many different, you know, whether it's the conversion of a hover mat, SPU, and a competitor sling, it can show how much you can save that facility by combining those two products into one and not having to worry about having the 2 SKUs and additional POs and additional, you know, inventory space and all the money that they're spending on multiple products to do, you know, what our one product can do. So that is a great tool to keep in your back pocket if you need to show the savings for the product. We also have customer presentations that are ready for you. Some of the slides that were in this presentation you may have seen before because they came from one of the presentations I've sent out to you. So you can use these presentations with your customers.
Is now exiting.
We do have live customer demos that we can do here in the facility, and you can see, you know, when we're going to turn the camera around and show you what we have available. You know, if your customers have questions or concerns or they want to see a demo done, we can do that in-house. We have a lift here and we have a team that we can kind of show those live demos if you can't get into the facility to do those, where they have a question that's a little bit more detailed and you're not quite sure how to talk to those questions. We can do that here in the office. We have technique guides that are available out there. So we have those step by step of what to do. And one of the other things that I hope to be sending out to you in the next month or so is going to be a cheat sheet for you for each of the different types of tasks that you would do, which straps that you could hook up. and depending on what size patients you're going to be using. So I'll have that cheat sheet, and that'll be another one of your technique guides that you can kind of keep in your back pocket for your own use, not necessarily to share with your customers, but so you have that information. And then your support team, not only do you guys have each other in the RSD, but you also have us back here. You have your customer service reps. You have your, marketing team to help support you if you have any questions or you need any assistance. So 3 of your takeaways that I want you to get from all of this training today is to know that this is a great opportunity to increase your sales by converting your, SPUs and replacing with other slings. So this way you're combining multiple products and saving your facilities, all of this extra money and showing them what a great product this is and all the tasks you can do with one versus multiple products. You're going to see the multitude of versatility of this product also, and you can do all these different tasks with one product. And it's very comfortable. The design of it is very comfortable in comparison to a lot of the other slings that are out there. And then you have this added value by replacing any patient moving device and slings that are in the hospital. The hospital's going to see this as a huge value for cost savings. So they don't have to worry about adding, all these different SKUs. They don't have to worry about which one do I order for what task. And it's saving all that inventory shelf space. And then you have your time saving value for clinicians because they don't have to worry about which device to choose. They have one device for multiple tasks. So with that being said, we're going to get into a quick demo. Does anybody have any questions so far on the presentation? Okay. So, let me stop sharing. Okay, and again, if you can just take your cameras off, and that way it will increase the size of the screen and you will be able to see the demos a little bit better. Oh, thank you.
You're welcome.
Great.
Good. Glad you figured that out. Good.
Okay, can everybody's good, sees the screen, and we are off to do our demos. All right, so we're just gonna do a really quick demo of some of the basics. Now, you guys know, like with the HoverSling repositioning sheet, you can use the exact same techniques with our air that you do with the hover mat. So, you can do your lateral transfers, you can do your turning, your boosting, any kind of repositioning that you need to do with your patient. If you need to do any kind of basic things with your slings, all right, we're going to show you some of those basics. We're going to do a supine lift. We are going to do a turn, a hygiene check, and then we'll start getting into a little bit more of the other more difficult techniques, some of the newer things that we came out with. So we have our patient, Lisa, and my additional caregiver, Karen. All right, so we're going to just lift her straight up. And we're going to do our supine lift, and we'll show you this because I want you to see later on about that supine lift with the competitor sling. And one of the big things to remember, on top of the fact that with your patient safety strap, the only time you need this is when you're doing a lateral transfer with air. If you are using the sling and at any other portion of what you're going to do with your patient, just reattach it to itself so it is out of the way and you don't have to worry about it getting caught and it's safe for the patient. Another thing to keep in mind when you're using your sling straps is to coordinate the colors for each section. So we did a brown strap. We're using a 39-inch repo sheet, and we are using the brown strap for the head and the blue strap for the shoulder. Is there a question, Chris? Oh, okay.
They should be seeing it, it's not being like that.
Great.
Yeah.
Okay. Somebody's saying, yeah. Okay. Blue strap for the hips And then we're going to use a white strap for the feet. And we're just going to do a supine lift for her right now. All right. And I don't want to lift her up too high because I want you to be able to see all the room that she has in here. A lot of times when you're using other repositioning slings, they're very confining and you don't have a whole lot of room in here, and that's why they have all these various sizes. She's in there nice and tucked in, but she's not squished and squeezing. If you're using a 2-point hanger bar, you would hook up the head and the shoulder strap to the top loop bar, and then you would hook up the feet and the hip to the bottom one. All right, so what we're going to do is we're going to do a quick turn. So I'm going to pull her closer to me to facilitate the turn. Get some space here. All right, and Miss Caroline's going to remove her straps. And then to do our turn, I'm just going to remove the foot strap and the head strap because we don't really need to worry about that. We can turn her trunk with
Got a question?
the two middle. Okay, what's the question?
Adam Robinson is asking, do we have a mobile lift?
We don't have one here, no.
But it will work with the mobile.
It will work with a mobile lift, yes. All right, so we're gonna keep her shoulder strap attached and her hip strap attached, and we're just gonna turn her. So we're gonna lift. And she's gonna start to turn. Caroline's gonna catch her. And then I can put in my wedges. We can lay her back down. If I need to basically wipe her back, I can lower the sling while Caroline holds her in place, wipe her down, and then lower her back again. Now, if you just need to do a sacral check and you want to check for wounds or you need to clean the patient at that area, you would just remove the hip strap. And then you can raise her up again with just this shoulder strap. And that's going to turn her trunk, but leave me access back here to clean, 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 clean. And then I can lower her back down again. Yes. Yeah. And then, I mean, you would center her after everything's done and then return the lift. All right. And we're going to raise this up now because we're going to show you the competitor sling before we get into some of the other techniques. Oh, yep. Okay. This is our Sage Air Tapped LC. And we'll open it up. We have the head. Obviously, you can see the head placement. They have the foot placement and a centering line down the middle. Oh, do we have a question?
Just an FYI.
Yeah. Okay. All right. All right. So you have your head.
From Chris Craigmile.
Okay.
It's a chat to everybody, really.
Oh, okay.
Just an FYI, on the mobile lift, you need at least 36 inches of clearance
Yeah.
from the bed surface to the hanger bar in the highest position.
Right. Yep, and you're going to use, when you're using a mobile lift, if you're turning a patient, you're going to use the closest straps that you can to the device because that'll give you a little bit more space as well. You don't want to necessarily have that, white strap that you're hooking up because you want to have it as close to the patient to give all of that space to be able to facilitate the turn. So, okay, so thank you, Chris. So we have our head strap with the multiple different variations of where you can hook it up. We have our hip strap different colors, so you can pick those up. And then we have our center strap, and again, you can see how much longer this one is versus this, right? There's a big difference for where this is located. These are your handles, so you can pull your patient up on top of the wedges. And then underneath you have your sewn-in handles that would be for your air transfers. All right, so we're gonna have our patient hop up, and then these are the socks where you would have your air supply inserted on both sides. Yeah. Love it. All right. And as you can see, Lisa's feet are off of the device, so you can tell that there's going to be heel drag. All right, gonna put her down. We're going to show you how tight she is in this for a supine lift and how she does have that hip flexion. Maybe we did up. It really does strengthen more. Yes. You got a question?
Doesn't Sage tell you you can keep the head off the AT-LC also?
I have not seen that.
Yeah, I mean, they might, but.
There's a head positioning there.
Yeah, there's a, yeah, there's a head, there's a mark for where the patient's head
Right.
has to be on the mat, so.
Yep. There's a head placement spot on the device.
And if you didn't put the patient's head on the sling, then it would be hanging off and they'd have complete neck flexion.
Right.
You know.
And you can see even with this device, you can see how Lisa's head's really flexed. And she definitely has that hip flexion going on here, right? And there's not a whole lot of space here at the end either. Feet are up in the air. She is, she's very tightly confined in here. A little squished. All right, and now we're going to show you the seated transfer. So we're going to raise the head of the bed. When you do a seated transfer, you want to make sure you raise the head of the bed so it's a little bit more comfortable and you're not really squishing their neck. Yep.
Hey, Lucas, but this is 10 inches longer, I guess not. Never mind, he's referring back to the air tap and what the air tap does versus the LC.
Yeah, I know.
Let's just.
Okay. So we'll do the upright. Yep.
Right, did you get
Yep,
me to?
upright too. Yep.
And then what we picked last week, right? The first one.
Let's do the long one. Want to do her? We'll do her.
I don't care. Whatever you want to do. I was trying to do what we did.
Okay.
Now.
Another question.
Just a link. A link just went out for their Sage's Air Tap LC IFU.
Yes. Okay. So with this one, you can see how this really droops here, right? So the patient might not feel as secure in this device. I mean, even though she's seated pretty well here, you know, they might not feel as secure. And when we show you the seated, it's a little bit different. Yeah, and one of the other big things about this device is it really digs in the back of your legs right here. And you can see her legs are squeezed together. So with those patients that have a lot of mass, it's going to be very difficult to be in a comfortable position here because where are you going to go? And this way, you know, everything's all squeezed together. I mean, she does have some room you can see through here, but you know, she's pretty hanging out back there and reclined. So she's squished. And now we're going to show you our repo sheet in a seated position. This one. Here's the. Happy. All right. All right, now with our seated transfer, we're going to use the blue at the top for the head. The brown, we're going to have her in a little bit more of a reclined position. And we do not attach the hip because that's going to allow for her to have that seated position. One of the other things we do is we cross between the legs with the straps. So we're going to bring them inside and just like on the split leg, cross at the lowest point, and then we're going to hook up the white strap here. And lift. All right, and with this one, you can see the sides are a little bit higher, so she's probably going to feel a little bit more secure in here, not going to be able to like wiggle around too much. And then the way the legs are secured here in between, there's no concern that she may slip out as well because you have this crisscrossed and she's now secure in here. It's also much more comfortable underneath the back of her legs here because it's not digging in, and it allows for all this extra space for those larger patients that may have larger thighs. She's got lots of space inside here for, you know, the bigger bellies, and she's going to hang out here all afternoon. It's like a hammock. It's super, super comfy. All right, any questions on the seated? Okay, no questions. All right. All right, and we're gonna put our head bed down. We're gonna get ready to show you the proning technique. Got to bring in some additional staff for that one. Yeah, that's bad. You don't have to. She's gonna. All right. Okay. All right, so as they do this technique, I'm just going to kind of walk everybody through it because it may be hard to see some of the steps. But what they're going to do first is they're going to hook her all up for a supine lift, a supine vertical lift. And the reason that they're doing this is they want to lift her off the bed so they can do all the proper placement for an additional repo sheet. Because once she gets prone, you want to be able to get them back to supine again. So it's easier to do it, you know, when the patient is lifted up the first time and put it down before you have to worry about trying to transfer them back. And they're also going to put out their pillows or any kind of foam positioners or whatever they need to help support all those bony prominences, and the hover cover, because when they're prone, obviously a lot of fluids and things leak out. So you want to make sure that you keep those surfaces clean and away from the patient. You can have your pillow placements. And there's some facilities that might not use pillows. They, you know, may use the gel positioners. They may use foam positioners. They may not use anything at all. But you're going to see the majority, I think, of the facilities are going to be using pillows just because it's something that's available and accessible.
As a reminder, the HoverTech logo on the hover cover goes on the bottom. It's not the top, it's the bottom.
All right, so now they're going to lower her back down, but they're going to lower her back on the edge of the bed, as close to the edge that you can get them without obviously her slipping off. And the person who is going to be, she's going to turn towards, is going to remove the straps. So just like you would do a regular turn, it's the same thing with proning. You're just going to keep going. So he's going to put the straps back into the pockets. And then he's going to tuck those pockets with the straps underneath, and he's going to roll the device under itself. All right, and then we're going to lift her. As she lifts, she's going to begin to start to turn, and the caregiver she's turning towards is going to facilitate the prone. The device is going to keep going, pulled out from underneath her. She'll be repositioned then. You can reposition, with air. You could reposition any other, go flop her around and everything else. So she's good to go, and she's prone and can stay in her place for 16 hours. So, all right. Any questions on any of the techniques? I don't see any questions. All right, we're gonna turn back this way. Okay. Well, first of all, again, I just want to say thank you so much for jumping on, and hopefully you were able to do a couple of takeaways from this training. We really appreciate you, learning a little bit more, and hopefully, like I said again, this, is for you. And if you have any questions as you go through your time looking at the presentation that I'm going to send out, this way we can chat about it. Call me, send me an email. Most of you have my email and my phone number, so just give me a call. Let me know. Yeah, what happened? Where'd it go?
Jolene, this is Mick.
Oh. What happened here? I can't. Oh, what happened? Where'd it go?
Jolene, I have a question. Mickey
Yes, go ahead.
Yeah, are we recommending that we have side rails up when we do all these techniques and procedures in certain scenarios, or are we to report or say that they need to be down?
Well, for the proning, most of the time they are not going to have the guardrails up or the side rails up because they need to be as close to that patient. You don't want to be leaning over the side rails to do a lot of these techniques. So as long as you have the proper number of caregivers, you won't need to put the side rails up afterwards. Yes, you can raise the side rails. But as they're doing the techniques, a lot of times they're not going to, because they need to have access to that patient. And it's just not a good ergonomic position to be reaching over those side rails.
I would agree. So the cheat sheet that you're going to make available, that's going to be color coded so that the proper placement of all the straps for that particular position, prone in, seated, supine. Okay.
Correct. Yep.
Great.
I will send something out that's completely color coded.
Wonderful. Excellent.
Okay, great. Okay. Mike, you can unmute yourself.
Hi, Jolene.
Hi.
Don't we customarily take a pillowcase and tuck the arm on the receiving side if we're going to be doing the proning?
You don't necessarily have to do that for the repo because it is so slow and controlled with your movements. The arm is not flopping around, and it's used as more of like a lever to or bolster to kind of do the roll. So it doesn't really get stuck underneath the patient because of the way, the patient is turning. And you're somewhat lifting the patient off when you're doing it. So if you're doing, with a hover mat and you're doing that, like there's a lot of room inside there for the patient's arm to kind of move around. With this, because it is so slow and controlled and you have that caregiver guiding the patient that's coming down, it doesn't need to be, but you can always, give that option to them if you want to talk.
And so this is really another added advantage of using this over the SPO or the old HoverSling.
Correct.
Okay.
Yep.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Any other questions? Okay, great. Well, again, thank you so much for your time. In the next couple of hours here, I'm going to be sending out an email. I will have the presentation in that email, and we have recorded this. So if you want to have a copy of this recorded, let me know. Send me an email and I can send you the recording. I will definitely send each of you the presentation, and in that email, you will also see a post-training assessment. And so if you could just answer those few questions about the training and then get that back to me by Friday, so nobody forgets about it. And then we'll go from there, and we'll all consider everybody experts on the repo sheet. All right. Well, thanks all again and have a great day.